What show?
The Whitey Show, the Whitey Show.
What show?
I'm the review who loves to say son of a bitch. The same review who hates most Nintendo shit. I'm the one who calls games what they are. I even own a 360 and hate Gears of War. Guy who spends his money on games, fucking cards. Just a funny guy who became a YouTube star.
Are you the owner?
Owner? That's such a naively hopeful word. What can I get you?
Assassin's Creed Valhalla is the third game in the new trilogy, and I am happy to report I really enjoyed it. Funny fact, this was actually my first Xbox Series X game that I played, and it was great. To get to see this big open world, starting with kind of like this frosty but lovely ice area, to this small quiet forest, to towns filled with lively people wanting to, you know, kill and rob you. Everything I wanted in a Viking style game was put into Valhalla. And besides a few hiccups here and there, this was actually a great adventure, and it had a good showcase for the Series X to show its graphical power and what it can do. So I really liked that part. Now let's get into the game. At the start of it, you get to choose between a female or a male version of Eivor. And although the story isn't really affected with either choice that you make, the fact that you can make a choice and then can switch back and forth mid-game is a great idea. It lets you feel and look different, and both voice actors, I think, deliver a solid performance, and there's plenty of cool customizations for each one to make them feel different and look different. So I enjoyed that. Kind of a step up from Odyssey. So once you embark on this adventure, your best friend and crew decides, let's take over the lands in true Viking fashion. So that's what you do. But throughout the adventure, you can still make choices that will actually have direct consequences, killing off even major characters. Unlike Odyssey, where it felt like more of that was just for show of the choices, this game actually builds upon choices. It's not often, though, that the choices matter too much, but the fact that they matter at all is a nice change to the series. On top of that, like most games that give you choices, you can actually build relationships in this game and do side missions, which give you new like warrior champions to help you in raids and such and fights, and that I really enjoyed. You also can do romance options. Now I wish the romance options gave you more than someone just admitting they had some good sex with you last night, but it was a step in the right direction at least. The cinematic feel of this game is leaps and bounds better than Origins and even Odyssey. It feels like a true over-the-top, almost movie, almost like Uncharted feel at times. Well, none of the events were that big or the set pieces that amazing to match Uncharted. There's some actually breathtaking shots in this game when you climb mountains, or even on some story missions and raids when something happens when you do a big fight. It looks great and it's very cinematic. Talking about raids, the gameplay first is probably the best of the bunch of the newer games. While assassination is still a major factor, and I used it plenty, the option to go true Viking warrior is not only of use this time, but it is fun as hell. Going full berserker rage and slashing, cutting, stabbing, and beating people with various different weapons such as swords, daggers, maces, and more is all extremely satisfying and fun. Some of the finishing blows too were the best in the entire series for me. As I mentioned before, the raids, those are kind of the new feature in this game. You get to kind of call in your crew to come and help you take over a place and loot them. It's really fun. It gets a little tad repetitive, but the epicness of it is really fun. And they spread them out throughout the story enough where it doesn't feel daunting like you're doing it every like 10 minutes. The boat traveling in this game was simple enough, and the fact that you can have an auto guide in it was really nice. I'm not a huge ship person, so doing this about 90% of the time worked for me. I also enjoyed traveling through this environment, and while I wasn't as amazed as I was going through Odyssey's world, most places, save for Vinland, hate that fucking place, were really fun to explore. So a lot of good here, right? I talked about that, and that's mostly my experience with the game, but there are some things I didn't love. Like most of the new Assassin's Creed games, or even some of the older ones as it got later in the series, there's one major issue: bloat. The game's side missions, as other games, are pretty dull. Well, it's cool that sometimes they just randomly pop up in an open area. I like that. It's not just an icon. That's a nice change, but the fact that there's a ton of them, and about half of them aren't that fun, isn't great. And the hunts for the bigger animals, they could be a cool idea if they really added anything other than a trophy in your room after you killed the beast. I really wish like you could wear its skin or something really cool like that. I also think the main story dragged far too long, and cutting about, I'd say about 10 hours or maybe even 15 hours would have really greatly helped the pace of this game. And I enjoyed the story and the characters, but by the 65-70 hour mark, I didn't do too many side quests. I'd say maybe a little less than half or maybe half. I was getting a little bored of the main storyline because it was so long at this point. That's not great. But saying that, my time with Valhalla was almost always a good game, despite its length and bloatness being a negative factor and a few glitches here and there. The amount of fun I had would, you know, harken more back to like the days of Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood for me. Would I say it is as good as those games? Maybe not quite there. Those are some of my favorite games. I consider them classics of that era. But it is definitely my favorite of the new trilogy for sure, and I spent 70 hours, so obviously I enjoyed myself. So I'm going to go with a great score of 8.5. To me, it's the best of the bunch so far, but I am excited to see what Ubisoft has planned for next, as I believe we're getting closer to like a big year for them, the 15th year, I think, next year. So let's see, but yeah, this is an 8.5. What did you guys think? Did you think this is the best of the trilogy, the worst of the trilogy? Do you just hate it, or did you just love it and it's the best Assassin's Creed of all time? I would love to hear what you guys think. Put your comments below. Hope you enjoyed the review. I just wanted to do these 3 in a row, and now I'm going to do other stuff in between, like comic reviews and so on, so stick by. But I think I am going to do some more video game reviews that I missed out on the 2017 to 2021, so stick around, and I hope you guys enjoy. Have a good day.
Yeah, shit! You had your chance to turn away, and it passed you by.